So now that you're familiar with the hive bodies themselves and why they are the dimensions they are and why they stack up the way they do, the last thing that's going to go on your hive is going to be your cover. Now, I mentioned, I think, in one of the earlier videos about the proper bee space, inner and outer cover and migratory covers. Those are the two most common. Your inner cover, the main reason for that, to me anyway, is that you honor proper bee space. So your inner cover is not a whole lot. It's just a shim more than anything else. Just to space your shim. So it's a 3/4 inch shim all the way around, but it has a piece of 1/4 inch Luan plywood centered in it. And so what that gives you is a 1/4 inch either side of that plywood, which when you stack that on top of a hive body that has frames in it, which have an 1/8 of an inch gap between the top of the frame and the top of that box, now you've got your proper 3/8 of an inch. So the inner cover is nothing fancy, nothing special. If you didn't want to make it the full 3/4 inch, I guess you could get away without doing it. But what that also allows, that allows a 1/4 inch space on top the inner cover, below the outer cover. Now bees can get into a 1/4 inch gap. It's tight, but they can get in there. And so on your inner cover, what you're going to need to do is, people will cut, you can cut an oval shaped hole that bee escape can go in. I just drill a round hole. And the only reason I do that is so the bees can gain access to the top of that inner cover in that narrow gap. Now, you need a 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch in that gap space, enough that the bees can get in there and get around and control, but not so much that they want to build comb in it, and not so small that they want to propolize it. Especially down here with small hive beetles, the bees need to be able to get to every part of that hive so they can manage those beetles. If you have any little part where they can't get into, let's say you're running a screen inner cover or something like that, and the bees can't get on top of that screen, then you just built a beetle paradise. The bees can't get to it to chase after those beetles and try to throw those beetles out of the hive. So the beetles very quickly will get the upper hand by having a place to escape. But again, the inner cover, very simple construction, very simple component, but I do advocate for it. I do believe that you need to run them. On top of that, you're going to have your outer cover. You can use a flush outer cover if you want. At this point, you could use a migratory cover if you want, or you can use a telescoping outer cover. I like to run the telescoping outer covers just to give a little bit of weather protection to my boxes. You get a rain coming down on top, and you put metal sheathing on top of that telescoping outer cover, or paint it with a real good weatherproof paint. But it sheds the water off the top of the box, and it keeps it from running down the sides of the box. So it kind of gives you a little bit of better weather protection. But like I said, I run a couple of migratory outer covers only out of necessity, and that's just because I don't have enough telescoping outer covers built to go and replace them all. And then I forget, because they're at one of my out yards, so I forget that they're on there, in all honesty, until I go check those hives, and I get mad. So anyway, probably not a real good description here of inner and outer covers, but I think I covered the gist of it. You can get a couple different outer covers. Migratory cover is just a flat flush lid. Keeps everything real trim and tight. Those are best for when you're stacking a lot of hives close together, because you're not wasting space with the lip. See, the telescoping outer cover has a 3/4 inch lip where it overhangs the side of your hive. And so if you're trying to stack hives tight together on a pallet, you can't, because that telescoping outer cover is going to waste at least 3/4 inches on either side. So you're going to have a minimum 1.5 inch gap between two hives. So again, that kind of makes sense why a lot of migratory beekeepers use migratory covers, and so they can stack them together tight on a pallet. They make I've seen these garden, they call them a garden hive or a garden top, and that's just that cute little, it's got a pitch to it. Instead of being flat, it's got a pitch to it. A lot of times you see people nail copper on them, just makes them a little bit prettier, but to my knowledge, the only reason to have a garden top is just so it looks better. It's no different than a migratory, or than a telescope. It's still a telescoping outer cover, it's just a pretty telescoping outer cover. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Feel free to correct me if that's wrong, if there is something else about it. But something else to understand with your telescoping outer cover, something I need to mention with your outer cover and your inner cover. The telescoping outer cover is built so that it is it's either 1/4 or 1/2 inch longer than it needs to be. So the inside, the outside dimension of your 10 frame box lengthwise is going to be 19 7/8. So your telescoping outer cover is going to have an inside dimension of I want to say like 20, 21 and a half, maybe. Wait, nah, that's huge. That's too big. 20. Oh, I don't know. Call it 20 and a half. Basically, but the point being, you can slide that telescoping outer cover back and forth just a little bit, and just enough that on your inner cover you can cut a notch on the top of your inner cover, and that gives you a top entrance. And so the bees can use that for a top entrance, or they can use it for ventilation if you need. I have yet to do that. I probably should. It'd probably be good to have that extra ventilation down here where it's so hot, but I haven't necessarily seen a need for it, and just like anything else, I just forget about it. But you're able to slide that outer cover back and forth, so if you want to close that top entrance, you can. You just slide it back. Let's see, what else on inner and outer covers? Shoot, now I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, I guess that's it. I'm out. I exhausted myself. Like I said, if I said anything on there for other beekeepers to see this videos, if I said anything on here that doesn't make sense, that you don't agree with, please comment below. I definitely support the input and the criticism. So just trying to make these videos to share with you guys, share with the beginners that are trying to learn and understand exactly why we do what we do as beekeepers. So that's it for this one on inner and outer covers.